Good afternoon, everyone, and Metropolis's Tank Thursdays. Today, we were very pleased to host it by Gensler, who will be discussing how we leverage real estate and design new spaces to create safe and environments while supporting our community. Hosting this requires the support of great firms like Gensler and our incredible sponsors. I would like to thank Growy, designing and engineering innovative water products for bathroom solutions and kitchen fittings. Knoll Textiles, modern perspective, performance textiles. Landscape Forms, design, cultural, craft. Material Bank, the largest material marketplace for sampling in the architecture and interior design industry. Mohawk Group, industry leaders in innovative high-performance and worry-free flooring solutions for the built environment. Tucci, life outside is a life well lived. And Woodard Craftmade, luxury outdoor furniture, premier lighting. And now I would like to introduce today's moderator, Metropolis's editor-in-chief, Avi Rajagopal.
Thank you so much, Tina. And thanks everyone for joining us today. I'm really excited to have this conversation rooted in one of my favorite cities in the United States about a topic that's absolutely top of mind for all of us today. Atlanta has been for a while now one of the fastest growing cities in the US, a fantastic market, a really bustling workplace market in particular for all of you who are in workplace design or in corporate real estate. I'm sure you've seen that. And there's many things that make it so great, right? It's a particularly green city. It's a really diverse city. It has amazing educational institutions. It has a really strong public transit network. There's just many things that make Atlanta a really beautiful and vibrant city to live and work in. But that doesn't mean that folks in Atlanta don't face the same challenges that all of us have been facing this past year during COVID-19. And so, even in one of the most lovely cities in the US now, I think the question remains, how are we going to navigate the changing work environment? And how in this process can we leverage some of the strengths of a great city like Atlanta to come back to a work scenario that maybe is even a little better for us than the ones we left behind in March 2020. I think that's really the hope, is that we can use this pause, this slowdown, this shift, this great workforce experiment, whatever you want to call it, to really double down on some of the things that we know matter, some of the things that we've learned now matter, and some of the things that some of the changes we hope to affect in the workplace. So to talk about all of those things and to talk about how we can reposition the workplace with a greater sense of purpose and with well-being at its core, I have a fantastic group of panelists today. Talking to us today is Chad Polk, who is the Global Project Delivery Leader and for real estate at Kimberly-Clark. Chad, thank you so much for joining us. Clark Dean, who is the Executive Managing Director, Partner, and Board Member at Transwestern. Clark, such a pleasure to have you. Erin Greer, who is the Senior Associate and Co-Director of the Work Studio, as well as the Regional Technology Practice Area at Gensler. Erin, thank you so much for joining us. We have with us Greg Simon, who is the Senior Vice President of Project and Partner Development for Economic Development at the Metro Atlanta Chamber. Greg, thank you. It's wonderful to have your perspective on this panel. Liz York, who is a Senior Advisor for Buildings and Facilities Strategy and Innovation at the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the CDC. So Liz, it's wonderful to have you today and for you to be able to take some time off from what I'm sure is a crazy time. And Lucas Roberts, who is Senior Associate and Co-Director of the Work Studio at Gensler. Lucas, such a pleasure to have you. I'd love to start today's conversation with you, Lucas. Talk to us about Atlanta. I, of course, wax poetic a little bit. I wanted to say, and I forgot to say, that it's also home to my favorite Real Housewives franchise. But Atlanta is just fantastic for so many reasons. A lot of things make this city a great place to work before COVID-19. How do you kick us off by telling us some of your thoughts on how do we leverage those strengths now? How do we build better workplaces in Atlanta?
It's a great question, and thanks for hosting and moderating. Thanks for the 424 people that are participating right now. I wish Aaron and I could have you all in our office. I know you wouldn't fit, but we would try. So the strengths of Atlanta, I think breaking it down into probably three lenses, really, just to kind of identify the way from a regional and then a city, then the business community. You talked about the strengths of our region and our area. We're the city within the forest. I guess that's one of the dominating visuals when you fly into Atlanta or you arrive into this lush city. The airport, the colleges, the diversity, the culture, the cost of living. I relocated here from Manhattan, so the idea of the cost of living and coming to Atlanta was very attractive, and it's a huge strength. The weather, maybe not today, except for maybe the folks in Canada. We're still having a very good day today, but I mean the weather is one of those major strengths that's going to be here regardless of COVID-19. And that transitions into city. And I think the thing that Atlanta has that is also extremely rich is its network of neighborhoods. These diverse groups that are independently unique. You can go from Little Five Points to Candler Park to Avondale to Midtown. They're all very unique experiences. And I think the strength that we're starting to leverage as we think about wellness is how we connect these communities. And as we connect these communities from the Beltline for those around Atlanta is a fantastic loop that's going to go around Atlanta and connect all these by a greenway and maybe in a future a light rail. We have the path that connects us out to Stone Mountain and other features. So the idea that we're starting to see as we're trying to make better, healthier workplaces is the less density. So as we start to see these unique communities, we're giving ourselves the real opportunity to create less dense communities that can help support core urban areas like Midtown and downtown. But really, I think what the strength is this business community. And that's what Atlanta is really known, is that the amount of Fortune 100 companies we have within our area is unlike anybody else. And pre-COVID-19, it was all about the war for talent. Well, the war for talent was over, right? Talent won, unequivocally. The idea that bringing talent to your organization was top paramount. Amenities and then having a wow moment. I think what COVID-19 has taught us is that we finally had the opportunity to pause and really evaluate, why do we even want to have a workplace? And necessity is the mother of invention. Through this time, we have found tools that can change the way that we design, the way that we think about interacting with each other. We were joking earlier on one of our calls is that we never used Teams or Zoom or video conference for that matter, and we would sit around a table. We would have maybe 100 people in our office at best. But now I think this opportunity, the strength of when we go back to the office and we get over this peak of vaccinations and individuals, is that we have this time to be able to reevaluate how and why we do what we do. And we're going to have this brand new toolkit of strengths of digital tools and these younger professionals that have been working in this matter it's going to change the way that we think about design and place. And I think Atlanta's the perfectly poised location just due to all those lush kind of macro regional goals that we have, is that the idea of all these things converging is going to just compound the amount of strength that we have to be able to take Atlanta beyond where it's ever even been before.
Right. Absolutely. And I think, the point you made about, coming infrastructure or developing infrastructure in Atlanta as one of those macro indicators is really important too. It's a city that's, not sitting still, and having those connections, I think, will make sort of your scenario of a less dense, work community, plausible and feasible. And with as you say, the strength of the business community that are in Atlanta, I think there's possibilities here that, or rather possibilities that can be leveraged here first, that maybe other places may then look to learn from, which is absolutely fantastic. Craig, I'm sure at the Metro Atlanta Chamber, you're hearing a lot about those great businesses that are in the Atlanta area and are now kind of in this working through this distributed work moment, and are maybe in a little bit of uncertainty. Some are setting policies, some are not yet, I'm sure. As you're helping folks navigate through that, how are you kind of maintaining that core sort of offering that Atlanta has? How are you making sure that, the city is a great place to work, even if a lot of work is happening virtually?
Sure. Great question, Avi. First of all, thank you for having me on this distinguished panel. It's an honor to be on and kind of share my thoughts on this topic. And here's what I'll say. And the perspective that I bring to this is, I think like most Atlantans, I'm a transplant to the area. I was born and raised in the Northeast United States. I've lived in Washington, D.C. and New York and Boston. And I left Boston 14 years ago. My wife is a doctor and we couldn't afford to buy a house there. And we said, something's wrong with this picture. We want to live in a city that's a global city, that's a growing city, that's a city of the future. And most importantly, we want to live in a city where we can afford to buy a house and raise our children. And so we moved to Atlanta and we were able to do that immediately. So just by moving here, we improved our quality of life. And Lucas did a great job kind of running through a lot of Atlanta's strengths, the cluster of large corporations that we have headquartered here, like Coca-Cola and Delta and Home Depot and UPS, to the great universities that we have here, like Georgia Tech and Emory and University of Georgia. Also, we have wonderful historically Black colleges and universities like Morehouse, Clark, and Spelman. Our airport is a tremendous asset that connects us to anywhere on the planet. And it's great having Delta headquartered here, and that's a big reason for that. Atlantans are very proud of the diversity that we have here. We like the fact that Atlanta is a location where everyone is welcome. And we have every type of diversity, from international diversity, ethnic diversity, cultural diversity. And that is something that, going back to the civil rights movement in the 1960s, many of the civil rights leaders are from Atlanta. And there's been this great partnership between the business leadership and the civil rights leadership. And that's carried forward to this day. And that has kind of, the example of that is a wonderful announcement that we had today with Microsoft. Brad Smith, Microsoft's president, announced officially, this has been in the news, speculated for a long time, but that they have acquired 90 acres of land inside the city of Atlanta on our west side that's been sort of an economically challenged part of the city. And what's really great about Microsoft's commitment is that they have stated that their global workforce is about 5% Black and 6% Latinx, and that they see Atlanta helping them to increase their diversity. And so with this 90 acres, they're going to put a tremendous amount of thought and be very intentional about designating 1/4 of their acreage to affordable housing and working with the community to develop this. And so it kind of relates back to your original question, is with COVID and the virtual workplace, how does that look going forward? Well, it makes me feel very optimistic that a company like Microsoft is making a significant financial commitment for the long term in the core of our urban area that will be a mixed use development, that they're thinking about lessons learned in the Seattle area in terms of raising residential prices and pricing people out. And they will very intentionally work with the community on affordable housing, but also to train the residents of the community with software skills. So, to answer your question, Microsoft is very confident that people will be coming back to the workplace. And with that, I'll turn it over to the next speakers.
Absolutely, Greg. And Microsoft is not the only one, of course. This past year, many big tech companies, made significant real estate investments or commitments. So it seemed like, even though I think for smaller organizations, there is this day-to-day uncertainty. I think the long term, there is some amount of certainty. And I think actually it's that contrast, right? Like, we don't know what now looks like, but we do know the workplace is not going anywhere. I think that certainty and this uncertainty actually is where the opportunity lies, right? That's where it's like, okay, we can, because we know the workplace is going to come back, because we know we are going to go back to work at some point, or in some way, some of us, whatever that might look like, right? It gives us a lot of opportunity now when things are unsettled. And so Microsoft can say, let's look at affordable housing, right? I think that's a great example of sort of really using this moment and using it well. Chad, talking about that, I'd love to bring you in here. Of course, at Kimberly-Clark, you do have this global view of what's happening, with real estate all over the world. And, you have collaborated with Gensler. You did a workplace survey recently, trying to make sense of this really uncertain time as well. What are some of the patterns that you're seeing here in the US, even whether in Atlanta or even broadly? We'd love to hear.
Yeah, thanks, Avi. Appreciate the question, and certainly thanks for having me on the panel. I do want to say that I'm actually, moved to Atlanta when I was 9 months old. So I was practically born here and certainly raised here and went to school here. So I have maybe a little bit of a different perspective. I have had opportunities to live and work elsewhere outside of Atlanta, but certainly found my way back to Atlanta as soon as I could, and I've raised my family here, and it's really a great. It's a great city. I think Lucas and Greg did a great job of really highlighting some of the big pieces. But from more of a personal perspective, it's just a great place to raise that family. You just create such great friendships, and so it's very good too. As a matter of fact, Liz on our panel is a friend of mine as well, and so we know each other. We live near each other and go to the same church, and so it's just good to have those personal relationships. So glad to see that. Let me talk a little bit about Kimberly-Clark. As probably with most of us, 2020 was really a crazy year, and for us as a manufacturer of essential products, our year was really about how do we respond to a vast increase in demand for our products, and so we had to kind of learn how to increase our manufacturing and increase our logistics and do all that while we kept our people safe and while we learned how to operate in that manner. And so that was a lot of learning. There was a lot of effort and that went into making sure that we could do that and respond to the increase in demand. And so that was kind of what 2020 looked like. But as we turn to 2021, I think it's going to be really another year of learning for us. We hopefully will be coming back into the office. Most of our offices remain closed. We have some offices in the Asia Pacific region that are open, but for the most part, all of our offices are closed. And so we're taking this opportunity to really learn about the workplace and how do we want to come back into the office and what changes does the experience that we've gone through in the last 12 months, what does that mean for us and our culture? And so to that end, you mentioned that we took the time to do a survey of all of our office personnel around the globe, about 18,000 people globally. And we had, what was amazing to that is that we had what I thought was an incredible response rate. We had probably over 50% of our 18,000 employees respond to this survey, and it was not a short survey. Let me just tell you, it took probably about 20 minutes, but we had a great response rate and really great interaction. And I think that just goes to show how people were thinking about not only this work from home period, but also about what's coming in the future. And so I was very grateful for the information, but it allowed us to really use that as a good data point for helping us kind of put together our plans. And so, some of our key learnings that we had, just a couple that I'll point out. So first of all, and you might have heard this from other companies, but our people want to come back into the office. And the reason they want to come back into the office is to collaborate with their colleagues and to really connect. And I think that was really one of those pieces that is probably not surprising, but it was really came through very strongly in the survey about how much the office is the centerpiece and that connection point for us. I mean, we're a global company, we're a multinational. We're used to working with our colleagues around the world. So being on Zoom calls and Teams, I mean, that wasn't necessarily anything new for us. We'd been doing that for a little while, but certainly I think, this extended period has helped us kind of learn different ways of leveraging that and has really helped us to understand how important that connection and collaboration in person is going to be when we get back into the office. So we certainly want to get back into the office. Overall, the work from home experience for our employees was quite good. Some of that was probably because I think our technology teams had taken some time to kind of get us prepared, not necessarily for this pandemic, but just, they had us in a good position to be able to work remotely and work from home. And so the technology was not really a barrier, but we really had high levels of satisfaction from our employees in working from home. They liked the flexibility. And I guess we had about on a 5-point scale, it was a 4.1 was our global satisfaction score. So I was really good to, glad to see that. And then I think the other really key learning for us is that when we do come back into the office, it will be in a hybrid way. People, not only have we learned that we actually can work, in a much more flexible manner, but I think all of the positives that come out of that around, being able to have a better work-life balance, and really help with the wellness aspect, shorter commute times. I mean, all of those things that there are sometimes barriers to coming into an office, where, we're learning how, working flexibly is going to help us address some of those. So we'll see that. And I know a lot of companies are going to follow suit in that respect. So then the last thing I'll just mention that, and then we can maybe talk more about the survey as we go through the panel. But, what was striking to me was that there was little variance as we looked across the globe. So I know we're talking about Atlanta today, and it's such a great city. But when we talk about other really amazing cities around the world and how people work, at least for our company, there was a lot of similarities around the way people thought and the way people operated and their views of the future. We're all very similar. So I was glad to see that, and I think thinking about that as we think about how we can design our workspaces to address not only flexibility but wellness and sustainability as well. So great to be on the panel. Look forward to answering some of your questions.
Right. I think that's really been the incredible common experience for many companies is, regardless of how easy or hard their transition was, some people I think maybe had a harder time of it than others. And, and of course, we're talking about companies that are, we're talking about the folks who do go to an office rather than, go work at a hospital, for instance. But, by and large, once they've made the transition, it seems like, Chad, that's kind of been a common experience that, people want the flexibility, right? And, but at the same time, they appreciate the value of the office. And that, it's not a yes or no, black or white thing, right? It's really about, well, how are we going to make this happen? And what is the best way that we can do it? What's also been exciting has been, as the last thought that you left us with, the increased focus around wellness and sustainability. And, I'm sure we'll hear more on that in the panel. But, that's really been great because, it's something that maybe some companies have always wanted to do and have not had, the push or the incentive, or maybe to say the pull from their employees to do it. And sometimes, it's companies have, made those investments, but, have been uncertain. I mean, the companies have been in so many different places. It feels like this has been a great clarifying moment. And that's really great as well. Clark, I'd love to hear from you. The real estate question is a question that, everybody is kind of grappling with. It's like, yes, we know the future office can be flexible. Does that mean we can go smaller? Does that mean we need different types of spaces? Does that mean we should move? And that somebody's talking about a work ecosystem, a hub and spoke model, or this or that. Like, there's just so many ideas out there. So just tell us, what are some of the kind of key indicators or the kind of the frameworks that you think will help us make those decisions when we are ready to make them? There's a lot of clients, I'm sure, that are just not ready to make decisions right now. So I'd just love to hear how you're guiding your clients through this time.
No, absolutely. No, thank you. And thank you again for inviting me to be part of the panel. So, we're just at an incredibly interesting time where like the entire world was really thrust into this grand experiment at once. And you think about there are not many times in the course of human history where you really have that opportunity for everybody to say, there were people that had said we could never go to remote working, because of various things, whether it's HIPAA compliance or other issues, and we could just never do that. And yet they found themselves thrust into having to figure it out. And so people have largely figured it out. I'll mention, I think as you know, we do stuff kind of all over the country, but coming from Atlanta as a place, and I love hearing Chad and Greg talk about this city, because I do think you can't be a part of this city and not kind of be affected by some of its key attributes. And one of the things, I'm originally from Birmingham, Alabama, and spent time in Boston and Cambridge and in Washington, D.C. as well. But what I found about Atlanta is Atlanta is a networked city. And I don't mean just network like networking, like kind of like some swarmy, like, business development kind of thing. I mean, it's built on networks of ideas, of people, of relationships, of social fabric and network in a way that creates a lot of diversity. And some of this diversity, I think that Microsoft and some of these other companies are really attracted to here, come from not just diversity for diversity's sake, but the fact that richness and innovation comes at the intersections of diverse disciplines and experiences. And it allows you to see problems through different lenses and to bring different perspectives to solving problems in unique ways. And I think that's one of the things that groups like Microsoft are seeing in a place like Atlanta is how do you activate networks in such a way to where you actually speed up the number of ideas and the potential solutions around particular problems, but you can also actually often shift capabilities to solve problems in areas that you wouldn't even know about. So some of Atlanta's strengths as a network, I think, really create a framework that we use when we're looking at all of our clients, wherever they may be. So we often use a lot of network lingo. So you asked for a platform and structure. So what we always try to think about when people think about real estate, yes, is a physical place. But the best real estate solutions really have to be at the intersection of culture, function, and economics. And it's really that Venn diagram of culture, function, and economics is that sweet spot in the middle where the best real estate solutions really fall. So I think as everybody got sent home, one of the big questions was, what is the impact to our talent? What is the impact to our culture? How do we inculcate culture in mentoring, professional service type businesses? How do we actually build relationships and transfer ideas amongst the different generations of leadership within these firms? And that's been hard for people. This sort of people talked about the lack of serendipity. Is serendipity something of the past if you're not in a physical environment? And I think on the social scale, that becomes really important. It's not so much just collaboration, and collaboration is super important. People talk about it a lot, but it's not just collaboration. A lot of times it's actually the emotional well-being of people. If you just move to a new city and you don't know anybody there, it's different than once you've been there 6 months and you walk in the grocery store and you run into 3 people you know. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's more productive, right? It might make it less productive. You don't get your sugar fast. I mean, you're running and having these conversations, but it makes it a richer experience. And when we think about the experience economy, culture and experience makes a great difference. And I think companies are having to think about the impact of hybrid and remote work on its culture. The next thing is really function, right? So function is how do people actually get their work done? And there's some functions that, quite frankly, you're better off in a hotel room like I'm in right now, or at home or wherever you are, just cranking. You put your headphones on and just go, no distractions. And I think that some people are really benefiting from that in a remote environment. But the fact of the matter is, there are also elements of being around other people working that have psychological and physiological elements. So my background was biomedical engineering, so I get a little geeky with some of the math and science stuff, which I'll try to more or less spare you with, but I will leave you with this one thought and then move on to economics. And that is, as people are looking at urban environments, a lot of biomedical engineering research is now being applied in the concept of scaling laws. And I had a professor that was big into scaling laws, and this idea that if you looked at a field mouse, a human being, an elephant, and a blue whale, just by understanding their size, you could predict almost perfectly the metabolic rate, the number of heartbeats per minute, the lifespan of these organisms. And you think, what in the world does this have to do? What is this real estate broker talking about this stuff? Well, here's the relation. People started now taking these scaling laws and applying them to cities, and really studying how cities change and how the larger cities actually are impacted. And what they found are two characteristics of city growth. They're absolutely impacted by very predictable scaling laws. The first is that as cities grow, what you have is a sublinear scaling of efficiencies. So as a city gets bigger, it's less expensive to feed, water, right? Take care of the people, right? So that there's an efficiency benefit. But more importantly, there's a superlinear scaling, so a logarithmic, like hyper, growth of economic activity. And that's caused by the interactions of people, more people interacting, in fact, more quickly. And it's that gap between the superlinear economic impact and the sublinear efficiency that creates a lot of value for cities. And it creates, that density actually causes people to move faster. In fact, they've studied walking speeds in small cities, leading all the way up to like New York City. They almost perfectly follow these exact scaling laws, except for the fact that human ambulatory speeds like max out about 5 miles per hour. And in New York, they kind of get right to that and then sort of plane off. So it actually makes a difference. What does this have to do with work? What it has to do with work is if you're in an environment where there are a lot of people around you, you tend to actually work faster. It has nothing to do if you're even working with those people. The fact that they're there, the physical impact, you're looking at people working hard. It's like if you go to the gym, you go to, maybe you go to the YMCA and other people, you're not working out with those people, but you see other people working hard, you kind of work a little harder. And so it's a natural human instinct. So a lot of our clients are looking at, okay, how does working remotely or hybrid work environments work for their basic culture, their function, and certainly economics, because maybe they can use less space or use space differently. But the big question is, where does that put them in a competitive space? And ultimately, is it more important to have density that actually speeds work up? And how is that going to impact their competitive pressure in the future? And the last little analogy that I'll leave you with is when you looked at 9/11 in New York, there was this vacancy of lower Manhattan as people just moved out of the city. And at the time, people said, well, gee, we ever go back, right? We've got cell phones, we got laptops, we didn't even have smartphones back then, but it seemed like we may never go back until some people did. And those people that did realized they had that slight edge on the people that weren't there. And then the people that weren't there said, ooh, those people have a slight edge. Maybe I'm going to go back, right? And what ended up having is this competitive effect of a re-densification of lower Manhattan that led to a higher densification than it ever had before. And so I think that as companies deal with this, they have to really think about how are they organizing themselves, culture, function, economics-wise? What is that sweet spot alignment? And how does their strategy for dealing with work impact their ability to compete with their competitors to drive economic value? So that's some of the kind of things we've been thinking about.
Oh my God, there's so much in there that you just laid out for us, Clark. I think the one thing I'd love to emphasize is, that we need to be nuanced when we're talking about collaboration or interaction with other people, right? That there's many different types of meetings between people, and those have many different types of effects. And it's not always the right thing to do to privilege productive, right? Or, those kinds of interactions, meaning put people in a conference room together, right? And this is something that, in the workplace, there's a famous Pixar story, that people have been talking about serendipitous sort of interactions for a while now. But I think when those have been taken away and then we're thinking about what we want back, we're necessarily sometimes thinking in very functional operational terms and not sometimes in those broad cultural terms, and especially in terms of, health and well-being. Sorry, Clark, go ahead.
No, absolutely. And actually to that point too, and again, this sounds funny coming from a more science-minded, finance broker kind of guy, but what you're saying is so important, is the emotional impact and the emotional well-being that has such an impact. It's almost like, if you recall, Mother Teresa, she said that loneliness is the leprosy of our age. And if you look at this last year in the US and around the world, people had to grapple with loneliness, sometimes for the first time. And it doesn't mean that you can be lonely and be surrounded by lots of people, right? So I'm not saying that that's totally new, but this impact of how corporates deal with this idea of loneliness and belonging when people aren't in a physical place together is a really important one to grapple with. And it does impact productivity, but I think it's even a more human scale type issue that we've got to deal with in order to really have healthy businesses going forward.
Yeah, I'll just say this, when our first workplace issue that we did at Metropolis, just immediately after everybody went home, one of the features we did was about loneliness, because, we were in the midst of what we were told was a loneliness epidemic in the US. And then it seemed like this was just coming on top of that. Anyway, I totally agree. I think there's an emotional kind of question here. The other thing I can't let go of is, this word density is just, widely bandied around and widely misunderstood, is used to mean different things at different times. So I'm sure we're going to dig into that a little bit more. What is dense, what is distributed, and how those things play. But thank you so much, Clark, for opening those up. Liz, we have a perfect cue for you around well-being. Obviously there's so many layers to wellness today. I mean, at the basic level, we all don't want to get COVID, but beyond that, we also want to be emotionally healthy. I mean, as Clark said, so there's this whole range, and then, it's also this kind of social health, right? We want organizations to be healthy, not just the individuals in the organizations, right? We hear of toxic work culture, and we tend to take that lightly sometimes in workplace design worlds, but a toxic work culture is an emotionally unhealthy work culture, and we don't want that either. So talk to us a little bit about how we use this moment to create healthier, more equitable work environments for people.
Thanks, Avi. That's a great question. And first, I want to say thank you for having me here today. It's great to be with this panel and talking about these important issues that are on all of our minds. In terms of wellness and healthy workplaces, it brings to mind a few things that we've been working on at CDC, and just this idea of mentorship is so important in all of our fields, and the idea that a young professional comes into the workplace and meets the team. And then sometimes what they end up doing is shadowing someone else on the team and learning from them. And, it's part of the training. So, for example, for an architect or a designer, but also it's part of the social, learning the social mores of being in an office. And there are a lot of social mores we're all trying to figure out, like capitalization of all your texts, words, and all these things we're learning about. The new technology that we're dealing with, but we still have this need to bring up young professionals in our work, and how are we doing that? I can remember learning things because my boss, who was 10 feet away, was on a phone call, and I could hear him, and I was learning how he is talking to the client or how he's talking to the engineer about a problem. And then later I'd go in and debrief with him. And so the question is, how are we doing that now? And it does go back, I think, Clark, to the idea of serendipity. And are we getting as much out of that work environment as we used to? And I think that in terms of being at home in this beautiful home office, I mean, I'm completely, totally blessed to have, lots of windows and lots of space. And in my office at the office, there's no light. And I wasn't supposed to tell that I have a really bad office at the office. But, and one of the things that one of my coworkers challenged me with was, yeah, but you telework and you have a great office at home. So this is really more of a touchdown space here at the office. And when you start to flip the way you think about the workplace and realize it's more of the temporary place where you're going to touch down, maybe you're storing your stuff there, and then you're meeting with your colleagues. Like, the most important thing at the office is the other people. That's, I think, what I'm trying to get to. And that's good for your health. It's good for your mental health, as we've been talking about. It's good for your professional development. But we have to find ways when we're in that home office to also connect. And so, some successful things I've seen is, 10-minute touch bases with teams, like right at 1 o'clock. We're 10 minutes, we're on, everybody sees everybody's face. Maybe no one has a problem. Maybe someone has a deadline and needs help. And so, you get that that conversation that you would have just walked down and talked to someone in the hall and said, oh, I'm in a panic, help me, So I've seen that. Another thing, and it's very technology related. It's just turn your camera on, like we, a lot of us are at home, but we're calling in and we're not seeing faces. And I know maybe you're not ready to see people, but we made a conscious effort to turn our cameras on, and it starts to personalize again this idea of, okay, we're apart now, but as you said, we're going to be together in the future, and we need to remember how we look when we talk, and it's just a part of the human condition. I guess another thing about workplace, a lot of people are asking questions about, how do we make it safe? How do we make sure that we're not breeding infectious disease in our workplaces? And, a lot of times people are asking, are those plastic screens really doing anything? I think sometimes they make people feel better, but they may not be preventing the spread. So the good thing is, we know you wear a mask. You wear 2 masks. The science that just came out this week says, keep the mask tight to your face. And then you can feel, I think they said it's 96% effective. So we can be in a work environment with others with a mask on. It's not the same as what we had, 2 years ago, but it's we're talking about increased safety, definitely, for people. But it's not just about safety from infectious disease. And I think that the whole real estate sector was starting to shift towards this idea of healthy places and healthy spaces. It's been there for a long time, but it was really picking up momentum in 2018, 2019, 2020. And this has just increased that interest. And I think it's not only... we have to be careful that it's not only infectious disease that now takes over, but we have to remember about chronic disease also. Because if chronic disease is a problem for someone and then they get an infectious disease, they don't weather it as well. And that's what we've seen with the science. So, we have to balance all of these different aspects of health, like we were talking about mental health, infectious disease, chronic disease, social cohesion. And those all also connect to this idea of equity. I mean, the idea of protecting people's chronic health is also, a big piece of this equity equation, how COVID is hitting some populations much more severely. So there's a lot there, and there's a lot for the design and real estate industry to be thinking about. But ultimately, if we're thinking about people, then we're going to be going in the right direction. And I think that's a good thing to be thinking about. Oh, I forgot. I wanted to tell you when I came to Atlanta. Okay, so I came to Atlanta when I was a teenager, and that was the worst time to move anywhere. But I was in Jackson, Mississippi, which I thought was the center of the universe because I had never been anywhere else. And I thought it was horrible to move to Atlanta as a teenager, and that it was going to be terrible, and I wasn't going to know anybody or meet anybody, and I would hate it. And my dad will attest to that I was very upset. And then after about a week, I didn't even remember where I was from. I was like, there are so many great people. I'm having so much fun. There's so much to do. It's such a better kind of more inclusive community. And I guess part of why I want to mention that is, we don't know where we're headed, and you might be afraid of where we're headed, but it might be the best thing that ever happened to us.
Exactly. I do hope it's the best thing that ever happened to us. Two things again, Liz. Of course, like doing the research and knowing, and taking care of people's individual personal health in the office is really important. Thank you for bringing up, chronic disease as well as infectious disease. There's people from many different backgrounds who work in an office. There are different income levels in an office by the definition of an office. There's many different types of people in an office, and you have to treat them all with that level of equity in order to safeguard the health of everyone. And I think, I've never heard it said quite so simply before. The most important thing about the office is other people. And I think that's just really it. I think you just captured that in a nutshell. It's all that social, cultural, health, everything is tied into that idea of other people, right? It's not just about yourself, it's about other people too. And so thank you so much for that. Erin, really quick, I'd love to hear, sort of having heard all of this, right? As a designer, just how you're seeing design as a role play into all of these conversations. In some places it's a bit more obvious, like we know with the wellness conversation, and other places maybe not so much. I'd love to just hear your thoughts before we open up to questions from the audience.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Avi, and thanks for having me. I think, at the heart of it, design thinking is about a process of problem solving. And one of my favorite parts of what we get to do as designers is work with such a diverse group of people. People on this panel, different organizations, and the first part of what we do is we do research. We dive in. We want to know everything we can possibly learn about the organization or the culture or those goals that they're trying to achieve, or what does innovation mean to you, and what's standing in the way of you getting there. And so really, at the end of the day, space can both influence and support behavior. And so that ability to really be almost a cultural philanthropist, or archaeologist, trying to understand, at a macro scale from an organizational standpoint, but then all the way to the micro scale of what are the different individual experiences that we need to accommodate, and how do each of the diverse users of the space or organization need to work together to achieve those goals collectively, and then try to uncover, what are the barriers to getting there. And so through, that process, we feel like it can apply, and does apply to so many different challenges, and really, trying to understand, what is the problem, and trying to define that. And, I think we've heard through this discussion today that we've seen, a further explosion of experiences when you really look at an individual basis. And so, from diversity of people coming from different places, from people, Chad talked about subtly different experiences as we move around the globe for different, if different regions not having the infrastructure, or cultural challenges of having multiple generations in the workplace, or single people who are completely isolated and alone, or those of us who have young children at home and are trying to grapple with, being a professional and a mom and all in the same space, again, not having that separation. So there's just been this incredible explosion and recognition of people as individuals, and trying, as we talked about, take this pause and really look at why we're designing and what we're designing for. And people want to come back in for the people, and workplaces about other people. And how do we bring all of those, how do we leverage this equality that we've seen from those with physical disabilities or the introverted people or junior team members who didn't feel comfortable, speaking up around the formal conference table, in person, have found their voice through this time. To being able to connect with, hundreds of people across the globe versus the couple hundred people we can fit in, in our office space. So, design for the future. And as we think to the future, how do we bring together the best of what we've experienced in this virtual time, and bring it together with the attributes that we need the physical environment to really support and promote, and help us all find that inspiration, and that spark of innovation in and amongst us. And I think this space that we're able to create is a great opportunity for looking at how we might bring more voices into the conversation. And so I think that's been an incredible journey that we've all seen. And I think, one of my, wellness and equity are at top of mind for all of us. And to bring it all the way back to Atlanta, one of my favorite quotes from one of our clients recently is igniting the soul of real estate in Atlanta. And I think we all have this incredible opportunity to bring that personal experience together with our real estate journey and this great connected network and rich fabric that we have here. To really be very excited for what we can all lean into in the future.
Yeah, I mean, this is, as you said, design is predicated upon diving in and learning. And I think this time has forced us to question our assumptions, to leave behind maybe some of the blinkers we had, and to come in fresh into conversations again. And that in itself is fantastic. So I totally hear you, Erin, and I love that quote about igniting the soul of real estate. Absolutely fantastic. So we have a few questions from the audience here that I'd love to take up. A quick thank you to Gensler for hosting today's discussion, as well as to our sponsors, Grohe, Noel Textiles, Landscape Farms, Material Bank, Mohawk Group, and Woodard Craftmade, and Tucci for supporting today's discussion and making it possible. I think we'll take up this really big question first, and I think it's a good one to have a little bit of discussion around. Michael Sterkel asks, how do we make the lines of community interact in real life? So we've all talked about connecting people. We're saying it's about people. We're saying it's about those interactions. Well, what are some strategies to encourage interactions? Whether it is at the city scale, whether it is in the office, in an organization. So I'd love to hear some reactions to that idea. Are there any sort of, strategies that are coming to the fore?
Well, I mean, I'll just start with the easy ones, and then you guys can fill in the hard ones, right? So, I mean, parks, places where people can meet. And then when you translate that to down to the scale of an office, centralize like the coffee cooler, the water cooler, the break room, any place where people can gather casually is a great place to run into people. Stairs are also a great favorite, like the Spanish Steps is a great example, but every staircase in every building that's designed to be beautiful is a place where you will see people and have that little conversation that you wouldn't have had otherwise.
I'd also like to jump in and say, in the city of Atlanta, the city is intentionally divided into what's called NPUs, or neighborhood planning units. So when construction projects are proposed and there's a zoning change or a sign ordinance issue, those neighborhoods play a very important role in working with the developer and the city on the design. And I think one very good example of that is a project that we have in the city called the Beltline that started about 15 years ago. It's roughly a 24-mile ring around the inner core of the city of Atlanta that touches almost every single neighborhood. And so a lot of the design features that Liz was talking about in terms of parks and green space are very much incorporated into that. There's a tenant on the east side of the Beltline called MailChimp. They're a technology business. and they're rapidly growing. And in talking to their heads of human resources, they say 55 to 60% of their employees either ride a bike to work or walk to work. So they've been able to use the Beltline and the green space and the work, live, play community, incorporating bicycle racks. They even have a bicycle valet over at their office. So if you need to tune up your bicycle, you can do that when you come to work.
Yeah, and it's a great point. I mean, as Greg sort of takes it to the larger scale of like the Beltline, right? I mean, space shapes behavior. And I love this idea, you're talking about people. We've been saying for a couple of years now, it just sort of came to us that, people have always said real estate was about location, location, location. And we think that's really wrong. It's about people, people, people. And it always has been, right? And location was only like the closest proxy we had to really understand where people wanted to be. And so this idea of creating compelling places, or a lot of times we call them craveable spaces. You crave being a place. Why do you crave to be? It needs to have a purpose for being there. Whether it's recreational purposes or just a sense of expanse or beauty, like a Beltline, or a coffee or water cooler that sort of draws you there because you need that nourishment or that kick of caffeine to kind of wake you up. And I think that where we're seeing a lot of clients moving as they think about the culture of place and how place shapes behavior is to think first of what behaviors you want and what are the compelling experiences you want your employees to have. So what you end up having is this really interesting intersection of place and programming, right? So it's not just about co-location, it becomes about co-activation. And what are you doing in certain places and how are places equipped in order to really draw people there because they want to be there because they're better when they're there. And I think that's ultimately so. And then as we talked about scaling laws earlier today, scaling laws also play into fractal patterns. And so this idea of fractals being self-similar geometries at multiple scales. And when we think about things like a whole city having an element like, networks of parks, like the Beltline, then you take it to that next order of scale in, it might be that NPU or that neighborhood, right? And then you take it to the next scale in, which is like the block or the building. And then you take it to the next scale, which is like the floor. And then the next scale, which is like your corner of the office. And the idea is how do each one of those scales in that fractal pattern align with the kinds of experiences that enrich and shape the kind of behaviors that businesses want to have. And I know we talk a lot about businesses shaping behavior, and there's certainly ethical issues dealing with that. I saw this question from Katie here, which is sort of related. And that idea is, what do we see in this post-COVID world of how corporates are actually going to shape, our social structures? And I think we're going to see, hopefully, some more intentional programming around space and thoughtful creating of spaces that shapes behaviors that actually enrich people's lives.
Thank you all so much for all the time you spent here today. Erin, Lucas, Liz, Greg, Chad, Clark. This has been a fantastic conversation. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much to Gensler for hosting us today. Thanks also to our sponsors, Growy, Knoll Textiles, Landscape Forms, Material Bank, Mohawk Group, Tucci, and Woodard Craftmate. And thanks also to all you wonderful folks who listened to us today. Thank you for joining us. I know there were a lot of questions that we didn't quite get to, but I think we actually covered a lot of those topics in some of our opening remarks and in some of the conversations here. So I hope you did find this conversation a really enlightening and fruitful one. I'm certainly taking away a lot of food for thought from today's conversation. It's been absolutely fantastic. Thank you all again one last time, and have a fantastic evening.
Hey everybody, this is Cindy Allen, Editor-in-Chief of Interior Design, and welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us for ID Live, coming to you day 4 of KBIS Virtual. Oh my God. All right, So first of all, I have my amazing friend, Susie Williford. We want to send our hellos and love out to everybody. And let's talk about the week, Susie. We're gonna have the winners. We have 4 winners on today, which I'm really, really excited about. But let's talk about the week. I know it's, doing something for the first time is super tough. And I know the dedication and passion you put into all of it. Let's talk about the good stuff and maybe some of the other things.
Wow. It's been quite a week. Right now I'm experiencing these insanely 180 degree feelings from each other because, on first hand, we're so disappointed that the virtual expo hall didn't materialize like we had hoped. It was a catastrophic technical issue that the teams worked into the night trying to fix it, couldn't get it fixed. So rather than just, take the football and go home, we postponed it for amount of time to see if we can get the virtual show back up. Yeah. And of course, right now we're in the throes of that. I don't have any update because the teams are working on it, but it was such a disappointment because we wanted to deliver to the industry.
I know.
And the first, until it went down, it was great. And the booths were beautiful. Some of the things these people created, people pulled the stops out. It was amazing. Yeah. So that part was disappointing, but we're working on it. And then on the other high side, the virtual events that we did on the next stage and that we've done in the conference and the live events like the opening ceremony and then Bill's State of the Association and then the State of the Industry with David Kohler. And then those events, the attendance has been crazy.
Yeah. I heard that. Yeah.
Oh my goodness, blew it off us. It just blew us away. And then the events themselves have turned out beautifully. We worked with a company that is a virtual augmented reality company called Sequin AR, and they have just done the most amazing job. Green screen kind of stuff, way above what I know, but it turned out beautiful. And the comments that we've been getting on social and then personally have all been raving. So, it's hard because we have the point that's a disappointment. Yeah. And, the goal of KBIS is to bring beautiful new product to the marketplace and to connect those people together with our wonderful manufacturers that have been so loyal. And we're still going to try to get there. And if not, we're going to, figure something else. But, in my mind, it really makes us realize 2 things. A, there will always going forward be some virtual component to our show because we have proven that there are a lot of people that can't get there and now they get the opportunity to attend the conference, go see the things. That's very important. So we learned some really good stuff out of this. Second thing we've learned is that person-to-person thing is still so important.
Absolutely.
So important.
Exactly. Well, first of all, I just want my hats off to you. Susie, you're just an amazing leader in the field. I really, really appreciate that. The first thing you said to me was like, let's just talk about some of the things that, you were working on. And I know that your commitment is always to the entire industry. And those manufacturers are everything. You need them to have the attendees, to have the designers and your members. So lots of love going out to you. And by the way, can I just say that I did hear that the awards program was splendid. So we should talk about that, right?
We had fun. Yeah. It was fun. Bill Darcy, of course, Bill Darcy's the CEO for those that don't know him.
Hi, Bill.
Amazing human being and such a great leader and such a calm individual in a storm. And, we rehearsed a lot. He's much better at being disciplined about rehearsing. I'm just more of an off the cuff kind of kid. And we had a blast doing it. And I really think it turned out well. Of course we had good content. I mean, look at the designs. Oh my God, that's just amazing. It's amazing.
Yeah, fantastic. So let's talk about the awards a little bit. just explain what the program is and sort of how it's broken up, because then we're going to go into some winners.
Okay, so we have this award show every year, and we get submissions, literally hundreds and hundreds of submissions, and they come from specifically for the kitchen or the bath. We have it divided into categories: traditional and contemporary, small and large. And then it goes through a 2-stage judging. One is for the wow factor. And then one, after you get through the wow factor, then you move into the one where it's, you know, the drawing and the look and the standards and the guidelines and presentation. And then they're chosen from there. And there's a first, second, and third place in each one of the categories. And then we have the student design competition. And that is basically same format. We get that, and those are given scholarships. It's so beneficial to them to get these awards for their scholarships. I mean, it pushes them forward. And then we have the Builder Remodeler Reward, which I think is very important. We have the Showroom Awards, which I think, you know, we didn't used to have that. There's a few new categories where we award the showrooms. People that, you know, it's really the first place that a designer or builder remodeler will generally take the client to make an in-person choice on the technical. And, you know, being an old showroom girl myself, I spent 35 years in a showroom. I'm very excited about those awards because it always, you know, that's your presentation. It's your graphic. It's what you do. So we have those awards. And yesterday was exciting because we had so many really good cutting edge. So anyway, I'll go back to the money part. After that, I get so excited, I just can't help myself. Then after they get down to the winners, okay, now we've got first, second, and third. And the two winners, the two grand prize winners, they take the winners out of all the categories, one out of the bath category, one out of the kitchen category. And each one of those winners win $10,000 each.
Oh my God, that's amazing. Now don't say anything else, okay? We'll go through it. Okay, I'm
going to stop. I'm stopping talking, and you can talk now.
No,
because it's your show.
No. You come in anytime you want. No, but that's amazing. And something that was really interesting to everybody out there. Everybody, by the way, everybody out there, hi. We're sending you our love and hugs and all that goodness. You know, so you don't have to be a member to submit. Yeah.
All winners were not members. Right. I will say. The ones here today are members. Yay, members.
Yeah.
That's very important to me.
Yes.
And that makes it much more competitive. One thing you really do need to understand is, and last night, I'm going to say this because my darling Blue sitting here won 3 times.
Yes.
And Sandra won twice. And you know,
you're taking all my lines. Okay.
Okay. But I want to just tell you that this is important. It's blind.
Yeah.
When they come in, we have no idea who designed them, what country they came from, what city they came from. It's all done blind. So when people win multiple times, you obviously are right there doing what people want to see right then. Okay, I'm done.
I love that. Okay, so Susie brought along her friends. As you can tell, they're her friends, and I'd love to introduce them, and then we're going to give you some highlights of the event and the winning, a bunch of the winning projects, which is so much fun. All right, so we have Shay Pumarejo. Hi, Shay. She's the owner and principal of Unique Designs. You're out of Texas,
San Antonio.
San Antonio's in the house. Lovely to see you and can't wait to show your work. And then we have, as Susie has already said, Blue Arnold out of Baltimore, Maryland, and he won 3 times already, but we'll see all of that. Hi, Blue, how are you?
Doing great, thanks.
I love your name, by the way.
Thank you.
Yeah, and a principal of Kitchens by Request. Okay, then we have Sandra Diaz Velasco. Hola, Sandra, how are you?
Hola, Susie. I'm good, Cindy and Susie. Thank you for having me here.
Yeah, congratulations. You're out of Miami, Florida. She's the owner and principal of Eolo Design. Okay. And Madeline Slowback. Madeline's our Canadian who's in the house today. Founder and principal, Madeline Design Group. Congratulations. How are you, Madeline?
I'm great. Thanks for having me. I'm super excited to be representing Canada here today.
Canada's in the house. We love Canadians. Okay. All right. So, and I have my, I call her my amazing Amy. She'll be starting to pull up some of the winning projects, and then we'll talk about them. And we are going to start. It's so funny because Susie and I were talking, and it's like we normally do the kitchen first, but hey, we're putting it out there for the bathroom, and we're going to start with. So Amy, you can pull it up. There we go. So contemporary bath, large contemporary bath. First place goes to Shay. And amazing, Shay, fantastic. First of all, was it a big surprise?
It was a big surprise. This is actually my third best bath win in the best bath category.
Really?
And it was a definite surprise every single time. The competition this year, I feel like, was fierce. The first time I won was in 2013, and they actually told me months before the show that I had won the overall. The last two times.
And so it's changed a lot since then, right?
It's now changed a lot, and now they just keep you on pins and needles the whole time, and it's a huge surprise and shock and all the emotion, all the feels.
Yeah, you know, the one thing just to everyone out there that I think is really, really important, and I think people who know me as an editor know that I love to honor the designer and architect, and awards really do that. And it's wonderful to get your work out there and get it recognized. Why shouldn't you? It's like, for me, it's like, get it published, get out there, then get an award. There's something big Susie, you're gonna say at the end of this. Why don't you give us the Cliff Notes version of this project?
So this house, this was a whole house remodel. The house was kind of stuck in the 90s when the owner had lived there already for several years and decided that he was probably going to stay in the house for another 10 years. So he decided he wanted to remodel, and he wanted to definitely update everything. I mean, the house was covered in granny floral wallpaper, fluorescent lighting, fur downs everywhere. And he knew he wanted it more sleek and contemporary, but without it being cold and stark. And so throughout the whole house, we used organic materials, lots of honed stone and wood and different textures to play with the reflection of the light, but keeping everything very organic so that it didn't get that sterile feeling. This space
let's talk about the bath.
This space in particular had nothing architecturally going on. And so I felt like I needed to create an architectural element as a focal point in the space. And that's where the entablature came in, that's over the tub.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's definitely a wow moment. And also the striping in the shower as well.
Yeah, so the stone that's in the shower, it's the same stone, it's just two different textures, and that's what gives that striping effect. And the tile that's on the entablature is actually just a ceramic tile that is imprinted with that agate, but it just worked so well and definitely gave the space the wow factor.
And don't all of you, wouldn't all of you say that certainly ceramic and porcelain tile have come a really long way these days, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's crazy because it looks gorgeous. Now, Susie, you have something special to say about Shay.
Well, yeah, besides the fact Shay already said that she's a multiple winner. Shay, how much money did you go home with last night?
$12,500.
That is insane. Hello.
I know, I got goosebumps just saying it.
That is, it's such a generous amount that we put into our awards. It really makes their effort. I mean, just the acknowledgement is big, but to have also that kind of financial reward for the work that you've done and that your peers believes in your work is amazing. And then the other part about last night that was really spectacular is, everything we're doing these days is virtual. So over it. It's like, we're all doing it. But when Shay won her award, her chapter was kind enough to to support us, we actually had a camera crew there, and Shay was the one person that was receiving the award live. And
ambushed at my front door.
and we went to her front door with the camera crew, and I told her to go to her front door. She opened the door. There was somebody there with her award to present her award in person. It was a wonderful thing. What a way to end it.
That's a major TV moment, Shay. Can we see the award?
Absolutely.
So
I may or may not have slept with this last night.
I love that. I know. I'm seeing kind of an imprint on your face. Okay, let's keep going because we have a lot of awards to get through. Okay, so Ames, let's go to the next category. Okay, second place, contemporary bath, large. Blue, it's you.
It is. It's exciting.
And Blue, like Susie, tell us. Blue is like a very long-term. Right, and sort of like a master member or something really important.
Okay, Blue is a CMKBD, which means he's a certified master kitchen and bath designer, which is the highest certification we have. Not easy to obtain. Blue has been a long-standing member of the NKBA, served, of course, always been serving on the chapter level. He's serving on the national level. Blue and I actually served together on the board of directors back when I was in the industry and not working for the association. We served on the board of directors together. So that's why I know Blue as well as I do. We made a lot of good and hard decisions today back then that I think helped set the association up for what it is today. And we're very grateful for his service.
Yay, Blue. Okay, so this
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
A beautiful bath. And I would gather that, it was like I have no idea, but I would say close neck and neck on the first and second. And sometimes it is like that, and this is a fantastic project. So tell us a little bit about it.
Sure. This home is located in the Baltimore area, and it was a whole house remodel. And this part of the home we added on. So we kind of created a sky bridge to the new master suite, and this is part of that new build. And I wanted the bathroom in this project to be contemporary, approachable, and I wanted to mix some wood, and I wanted it to all be very real but different. So like in this elevation, this photograph, you have the vanities on either side, the linen closets, and Macassar ebony, and then I mixed that with the floating vanities, and they are actually the drawer heads are made of harlequin stitched white leather. And then I did right above that the optic glass. And then throughout the whole project, I kept continuing that theme throughout the other rooms in the home.
Beautiful. How were these clients?
Meaning, well, they were happy.
No. About that. No, but I just mean, like, when you do a project like this, yes, that does win an award, typically it's a really, really collaborative client. And, so yes.
The client, they were hands-on a bit, but they trusted their design team. So I worked with an architect who is just amazing, Jay Brown, and another allied professional, Kelly Niemer. And we three were able to work with the entire home. And so I got to take the lead in all the interior architecture throughout the home, like the bathroom. And the homeowner just let us know they really wanted it to be contemporary, amazing, and they wanted us to make them proud, and that kind of let us go. And then this is what we ended up with.
You know what? I'm sorry, I didn't say it the right way. I mean a good client, and a good client can be either or, right? A good client sometimes is super collaborative and pushes you, and then the other client is one that trusts you. So
lots and lots of trust in this project.
I love that.
They let us do what we wanted to do, and it turned out to be amazing.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Congratulations, Blue. But you're going to be up a few more times. Okay, so let's go to the next project. All right, now let's go to the contemporary bath, the small one. And let's see, our first place, Sandra. It's you, Sandra. How are you? You must have been excited. Is this your first time entering the competition?
No, actually, I have 3 consecutive years winning So yes, my first year was a national. It was an amazing experience, and you guys at Interior Design gave us a lot of exposure, and that was amazing. So congratulations, Shay, because you're gonna have an amazing year ahead. And yeah, so we had that, and last year we won a couple more, and this year a couple more. So we could not be happier.
Oh, Sandra, I love that. So, you know, sometimes we say like when it's like you really get to play when it's like a small bathroom, like sometimes you can really risk something. So tell us about this.
This was a challenge because the space was so small. And but the clients were great. They were eager to have some fun in it, and they wanted like a conversation starter because they love to entertain a lot. So she loves the Insta culture, and that's how we got our inspiration from. And we got to play with some because the space was so small. We got to kind of transmit and communicate the emotion of the Insta culture to simplicity in lines, geometry, and that helped us try to make in the space make a bit bigger. Geometry played a big time there, and that's also scenic and a little minimalistic. And then the boldness of color that we were able to put in the ceiling with this kind of umbrellas evoking the Chinese umbrellas. So that was kind of we also wanted to make it subtle. So I hope we got it. And
well, first of all, you won first place, so I assume that I assume you were heading in like the right direction. What I saw in this was a very hospitality type of project. So you can kind of see that, and sometimes in a project where it's not your everyday bath, but it's one, as you said, where you entertain and you want people to have that kind of wow moment. I think the element of the water being like really important with that beautiful spout and the water coming out was like really, really lovely. I wanted to ask you, Sandra, because you mentioned that you've been part of this before. Tell us what it's meant to you to be a member of the NKBA and also be part of competitions like these that really like showcase your work in a big way.
Well, let me tell you. First of all, I'm a foreign educated architect. So when I came here, it was kind of a challenge to get back my license as an architect, and I didn't know anyone. So the only way that I learned through experience to show and validate what we were able to do was through going into associations as this amazing one. So winning awards in like this important award in the industry really help us validate what we do among the trade, and with our peers get to know more of them, and then our clients kind of feel more confident that they are with someone that is professional and that helps and visualize more than some shallow concepts. It gives us that. And also the connections that I've gotten and all these amazing architects and designers that I met through the years that are nationwide, because I'm in Florida. And I have been able to know a lot of people from all over the country. And what more and better than being published in Interior Design magazine.
I can't wait to look that magazine
for a year long in different, like in all their different versions and types, and I don't know, like it was amazing.
Well, Sandra, first of all, big congratulations. By the way, I'm going to immediately, I know we've never met in person. Well, I'm going to look up the project. So I'm going to know it immediately. But Susie, she couldn't have said it better, right? Like the of community and getting out there and being validated as a designer. Wow.
It is, I was just sitting here thinking, after the morning after the Academy Awards or the MTV or the whatever they are, the next morning you're always on these morning shows where they have the winners on. I was just sitting here thinking, number one, our winners are much more enthusiastic and sincere than their winners. And number two, I really believe that our awards are probably as important or more important in propelling someone's career forward as those awards are, because truly what Sandra said is right. It validates you not only for the client and gives it credibility, but even on the trades and your peers and everybody that you get involved with, or, you know, like in Blues, he collaborated here, like the artwork in that shower, amazing artwork. But when anybody wants to collaborate with the winner, good God, why not? And so, you know, I'm really proud that our awards have taken on, over the years that I've been involved, the decades I've been involved, that they've taken on this persona now that they have that really is respected, not only in our own community, but in other communities.
Yeah. Yeah.
It is the Academy Awards of our industry.
There you go. There you go. Okay. Love that, you guys. All right, let's go to Contemporary Kitchen Large. And our winner is, dun da da, first place, Madeline. Hey, Madeline. Congratulations. This is a beautiful kitchen project. Amy, you can move it forward. Yeah, it's gorgeous, Madeline. A big congrats. Tell us about the project.
Yeah, so this was a large scale renovation on about a 10,000 square foot house just in the suburbs of Vancouver here. And the kitchen was a huge focal point for the home. We really wanted to create a space that that had that focal point, but also just really worked for the types of gatherings that these homeowners were wanting to do. And like the marble scene there has actually got a really hardy sealer on it, an anti-etch sealer. So although we all know as marble as a very delicate material, it's quite robust and can be used for everyday cooking, which is great.
Yeah, we have a shot of it here. It's beautiful as the hood, and you sort of created architecture in the kitchen.
Yeah, exactly. The house, there's a lot of architectural elements in the house throughout. It's very contemporary, lots of clean lines, but we didn't want it to be stark or cold. So we incorporated a lot of natural materials that complemented which you can't see here, but there's stunning ocean views out the adjacent windows. So we wanted to make sure that nothing clashed with that.
And was your client sort of easy to like push to this level?
It was a process for sure. It kind of went. There was a lot of development, anyways, in the whole design stage. The contractor got very heavily involved once they were brought on board. This was a 4-year endeavor for me, and we played with some really traditional looks. We played with some really modern and minimalist looks, and landed in this beautiful contemporary warm feeling with a lot of natural woods. And it was the wife of the couple that drove the more contemporary feel, where her husband was a much more traditionalist. They were moving an extremely traditional farmhouse. So it was tough to kind of pull him away from that, but we landed in really where she wanted to be. And they're both extremely happy with the way that the house turned out. There's a little peekaboo into another entire kitchen behind that hidden door. But yeah, no, we're super happy with where everything landed with the design direction, and the homeowners are thrilled.
I like what you said, though. You know, people see a project like this, it looks so perfect, and yet it is a process. And, you know, getting a client to an end result like this, as you said, it took 4 years. It's a process. So, you know, you always have to, I always say, you always have to fight for design, you know, and listen to your client and all those things. But clearly you got to a really, really special result.
Thank you. Yeah, it was an amazing project, and the relationship that you build with clients over a project of that length is just it's just super special. It's why I got into residential design. Building those relationships is one of the things that I love the most about my job.
Congratulations, Madeline. And I love the project, and congratulations to our Canadian contingents. Interior Design has we have a lot of friends in Canada, a lot of talent there that we publish quite often. So anyway, feeling love for you, Madeline. Okay, let's go to the.
Happy to be here.
Yeah. All right, second place for Large Kitchen goes to Blue. Here he is again, blue. And I think it's really important, Susie, as you said, that everything is judge blind, because great work always rises to the top, and you actually don't need to know who did it. You just need to look at the work. So, Blue, tell us, congratulations, Blue, and tell us about the project.
Thank you. Well, this is in the same home where the award-winning bathroom was located. So I like to layer lots of materials. I wanted to keep it contemporary, and I actually still have the original vellum sketch I did in about an hour, kind of coming up with a concept, and I rolled with it. Because I sometimes say, we know as designers what's going to work when we walk into the room. And here I knew I wanted to keep an open floor plan concept. So you can see the reverse waterfall I created with the quad of wall ovens in the center as a divider. And by doing that reverse waterfall with the soffit, kind of defined both spaces, but kept it very open as an open plan. And then this room, of course, is central to the home. So you can see on the far left there is the entertainment bar for a hospitality bar, the family living room off to the left, and we did all the cabinetry there. The dining room straight forward, and behind the viewer right there, the house is elevated and you have an amazing view of the trees and the forest. And then there's a pull off behind the table there. So it just really came together. And I love working with a layering material. So I did Wenge, and that island weighs about almost 2,000 pounds. We carried it in one piece, and it was just a lot of fun. And I wanted to work with something else. So that's why you see the glass doors on the cabinetry in a reptile pattern, and Cristallo quartz throughout, and these beautiful linear windows to the right and left of the hood. So they frame the hood. And I did that in a beautiful polished stainless steel. So lots of detail. And this project took me, I heard 4 years for Madeline, and this was about 3.5 years total, a year of development and a year and a half of actual production to get it done. So a lot of time goes into these and a lot of work.
Yeah, I think, first of all, two things. First of all, I think that's really important for people to know, and that's why I have so much empathy and want to get projects out there, because 3 or 4 years of your life, of your passion, of your love for your client, of the work, of design, you need to show it off afterwards, that's for sure. And I just want to say that, it's a very contemporary project, but having that nature as part of the element, having those beautiful windows and bringing that in, it really, really is captivating. So Blue, another great win for Blue.
Thank you very much, Cindy.
Yeah,
Cindy, one thing I think that's very interesting about all these the ones that have won in the contemporary categories is they are all contemporary, but they are still so warm and inviting and full of love. Sometimes contemporary people look at it like it's going to be cold and off-putting and severe. And these contemporary baths and kitchens, they not only capture that clean, which I think in today's world is everybody's looking at clean. They're clean, but they're warm and they're comfortable and they're inviting, which is so unique. And I knew that you would like them.
Yeah, I think it's almost like a new definition, because contemporary is kind of the #1 trend, but everyone wants to live in them these days. So I think maybe the old definition people thought of contemporary or modern was minimal, and it's not that anymore. And it's a mix of materials and bringing in nature and all those things that these projects are capturing. So congrats, guys.
I think you've had a hand in that, actually.
That's right.
You've had a hand in that.
That's right. I have. All right. We have Sandra. So, I'm not supposed to say that. So the third place goes to, I gave that one away. Sorry, Sandra. But third place for large kitchen goes to Sandra. Let's see some images. So Sandra, are we in Miami now? Is this a Miami project?
Yes, this is a Miami project.
Good. So tell us about it.
Well, these clients, these are the dream clients. And it was surprising for us because they are more of a mature couple from Ohio. And they were open. They were open to innovation, to new ideas. I guess because this home was in Miami, they felt that they could do, I don't know, some sort of a Vegas thing or something like that.
I love that. You want, the best is where a client will take a risk, right? And go on the journey with you. The hood, Amy, go back for a sec. The hood is really, really special. How did you think about having, floating that and having that kind of be the centerpiece, kind of the sculpture in the space?
Well, it's a beautiful, beautiful piece, but let me tell you, it was before.
Oh,
so,
what?
Yeah, and well, the thing is, like, this project is one of those projects that they were not supposed to happen that big. But we began small, and then we show the clients the possibilities, the potential of it, and they kind of fell for it. And then we began, because it was a way smaller scope, ended up being an almost 3-year endeavor, because it's a penthouse. And the building is beautiful. It's very modern, avant-garde in Miami, but the shape of the building itself is an ellipse. So it renders kind of a difficult.
That's tricky.
Interior layout, because there's a lot of corners and angles and things that you have to deal with. And on top of it, being this a penthouse, you will expect to have at least 11-foot ceilings, but no, that was not.
Yeah.
So although the views are breathtaking, it's amazing. The sunsets we get to see there, they're amazing. So that's why the color scheme with this yellow, orange kind of touch, it kind of talks and echoes that sunset, because that's mesmerizing. So that's how we got to play with more warmer materials and lots of light. The apartment before was very dark, but this piece is the piece that I love. And I say, like, you know what? I am going to work around this. And I loved it. And it's just about that, kind of getting to work with what you have and value things from the past and treasure them and kind of make it, but it didn't look this, because the apartment before was very, very dark, but we got to give it a little bit of light and warming, and more space and connecting those triangular spaces. Let me tell you, it was kind of crazy.
Yeah, because it looks like that was kind of the answer, and you could see that it was complicated. So I'm glad you had kind of explained what the whole apartment shape
I had to. And the idea was to connect that kitchen with the dining room area, which was non-existing before. It was like a huge living room bar with no formal dining space. But I wanted to frame that entrance and give it like a special meaning. And because I had to do something, like articulate somehow spaces. So we created this sort of portal. And then we made it like a bar, like a happening at the same time that we were framing that separation and that, like sort of umbra when you're dividing one space from the other. So to elevate a bit, the paneling and everything else. So
yeah, am I saying this right? Enhorabuena, Sandra.
Enhorabuena, yes, you did it. You got it.
But by the way, thank you so much for explaining it also beautifully. And it's so nice to get, to see a Canadian project and see a Miami project, totally different, and yet have their own personality and also solve the problem for the client. So thank you, Sandra, for that. All right, so we've talked about a lot of contemporary work, but we do have an award winner in a traditional bath category, and that goes to, drum roll please, goes to none other than Blue. It's you again.
It feels good.
It feels good. Yeah.
Yes.
A spectacular traditional project it is. So
thank you.
Tell us about it.
Well, this is a new build, again, in the Baltimore area. And these clients were absolutely a joy to work with. They really were thoroughly involved in this home. And it was a big footprint, and they were 100% all in. So we did all of the architectural interior design for the entire interior, and worked with a great architect on this project. And here I wanted something. I didn't want it to, even though it's traditional, it was very important to me and my team that we would make it so that it was not yesterday's traditional, but tomorrow's traditional. And that's why you'll notice like the cabinetry in here, I did in a very traditional inset door style, but yet we shot the whole thing in a polyester finish to give it that wow factor. And it's a super high gloss, which takes it to a whole nother level. And then all of the materials, I did a traditional white Carrara honed, but then I had Sicci's tile, we had this made, and it's a custom mosaic that we laid into the floor as a rug. And I pull that material back up into the walls of the shower. And then lastly, this whole barrel ceiling, again, that just draws your eye when you walk in straight to the view corridor outside to the yard. Beautiful place for us to place the tub. And then overall, this whole project was neat because the clients each had their own toilet water closet spaces. But opposite that, I embedded in both of the mirrors televisions because the clients were, in the bathroom at the same time, and they have different programming choices. So each gets to watch their own program on TV while they're brushing their teeth or using the vanity. So it was really a kind of an amazing space that's traditional, but I think it's tomorrow's traditional.
Oh, there we go. You heard it first from Blue. It's tomorrow's traditional. Can I just say I'm like super jealous of the space also? Sure.
It's great.
It's a lot. All right. So first of all, a huge congrats to you guys. And give everyone, congratulations to everyone. Very, very exciting. By the way, these days we need to have this positivity and this energy and celebrating each other and this community. So I appreciate it so much. I'm going to give you all one last, I mean, we're running out of time, but I just want you to tell me one kind of positive thing that came out of this past week with KBIS and or a product that you love. Big shout out to Sicci's, by the way. That was a beautiful job. So Shay, let's start off with you.
I think, one of the pros to being virtual this year is that typically when I'm at the show, you have to kind of pick and choose what you want to do. Yeah. This year, there were so many amazing programs and the voices from the industry, and the fact that we have a little bit more time to get to those, and they're on demand, so we can, really select the ones that we want to participate in and get to all of it without having to pick and choose. Another great benefit is there was a lot less walking. I don't know about you guys, but generally when I'm at the show, I'm on my feet and running around trying to get from here to there. And by the end of the day, I'm just wiped out. So, but I do miss seeing everybody face to face, but there are definitely some benefits to virtual.
Yeah, so Shay, I think we're all going to have to learn how to walk again when all of it. So, all right. So, Madeline, what about you? What's been positive over the last week besides winning? You guys, hello. There's the big. Hey, I thought you were going to say the greenbacks. The greenbacks.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just to elaborate on what Shay just said, like a large trade show, especially KBIS, is massive, can be extremely exhausting to walk around all day. So it's so nice to be able to pinpoint what you really want to see, what you really want to learn about, and have the versatility of kind of jumping back and forth without walking a convention center lengths 5 times to get back to what you were just doing. And of course, the in-person is super valuable. So we miss that, but and also not having to fly down to Vegas. Last time I was there, I was 7 months pregnant. I wish it was happening backwards so that I could be there now when I'm not pregnant versus versus when I was, but hey, can't get it all.
Madeline. Okay, Blue, what about you?
Yeah, I really enjoyed the voices from the industry because I'm always trying to split my time between getting my education, which I love the NKBA, and I will always say the association is so strong in their educational component because it really made me a better designer. And that being said, I've been able to really keep working, and I'm really busy right now, as I'm sure we all are. But at the same time, I'm able to spend an hour, get it pre-programmed, and then we're able to get our education. So to me, that's been the real benefit of the virtual experience.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And it's what Susie was saying too. Sandra, one last thought from you.
Well, basically, not losing the thrill of the happening in our schedule. It was great that, and when I have to thank the NKBA for taking it on as it came, and stepping forward and showing up to come up with ideas to give us some sort of continuity in our schedules, because I already had it, like from my last year, okay, next year, this is it. So I already had it on my schedule, always do. And that's something kind of, awkwardly normal in a way, to keep on and looking forward to. And so for those efforts, it's a big thank you to you, Susie, to all the NKBA, amazing job. And but the good thing is, as what everyone else was saying, is like to have the easiness to go with time and look at everything you want without any pressure, because it was crazy days. Fun, thrilling, exciting, but crazy days. So that's a good thing.
Yeah, so I think Susie, we've just heard it over and over again, exactly what you said at the beginning, which is that there are positives on the virtual side, and our future is the right mix of both. We said everyone together, and everyone realizes that virtual does help solve certain problems.
Right.
Being on the floor, everyone still wants to do that. One final look, Susie, we love you, and everyone appreciates everything that the NKBA does, and certainly you as a leader, I have to say, and as my friend.
Thank you. Well, thank you. And I'm just lucky to have Bill leading the whole charge, because he's that person. I guess if I don't know if, of course, we've learned all kinds of lessons. The fact that a virtual show, a component will always be there. But on a personal basis, it's reconfirmed to me that when I was 24 years old and ended up in this industry by accident, and decided I should stay there because it was warm and supportive, and I felt that maybe I could make something out of my non-directed life, I was right. Yeah. Because the warmth and the outpouring and the support and the excitement and the willingness to be excited about what went right as opposed to what went wrong just confirmed that I am in the right place, and that these students that we have are in the right place, and that the 30s are in the right place, and that if we all go forward together like we have, we're going to win this game.
Absolutely. And never before has the kitchen and bath even been more important. You can't even imagine that, but it's even more important. And we need all of you to keep working, keep growing, keep informing your clients, keep learning about new products. As an industry, we'll move forward together. We'll get on the other side of this. And certainly we can't do it without our good friends at the NKBA, and especially my Susie Williford. So big love. Congratulations to all of you. Amazing. Great.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you for your support. We love you. Congratulations, guys, all of you.
Congratulations, everyone.
Thank you.